You are live.
All right, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past. We begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people. I motion that we move the consent agenda. All in favor? Do we have any public comment about any other topic? No? So I motion that we move the public hearing for the zoning map amendment, local law number something of 2022.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any comments? I motion we close that public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
So let's move to business agenda item number 1. This is the unsafe building that we're going to be discussing. So I want to just have Corey or Stephanie, should one of you explain what our next steps are? Yep.
Yes. Corey, you want me to introduce
Yeah,
the issue?
yeah.
And I'll turn it over to you. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. How is everybody? So we're here under for a chapter 90 hearing, the unsafe structures portion of the village code. I do want to note that there's some sensitive topics related to this particular unsafe structures. So our advice would be for nobody to discuss anything in particular with regard to a physical or mental condition or the status of some of the individuals involved. But if we can just focus on the structure and also note that the person in the unit is not currently residing there, but there are appropriate involvement from certain social services entities. So we'll just note that for the record. So section 90-2 defines what an unsafe structure is. I'll have Corey go through that and issue any, just note his findings when he was at the premises and personally observed anything. Section 90-4 goes through the standards for repair. So if the unsafe structure can reasonably be repaired so that it will no longer exist in violation of the terms of this chapter, it shall be ordered repaired. So that's the consideration before the village board today as to what remedy or repair is in question to get the violations off of this premises. Corey, I'll turn it over to you, and then I'll go with what my recommendations to the board would be with regard to the order that was issued as a result of the resolution by the board and Corey's report.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, how's everybody? So I guess basically what's appropriate here is a little bit of, we've discussed this a few times, but a little bit of timeline. We were notified actually by the police department of an issue at 27C Colonial Drive, which is apartment C in building 27. They had a welfare check that resulted in some possible code issues. So we were called out. We contacted the property managers who was there on site as well. We did an inspection. The tenant was not present at the time, but we did an inspection of the space and determined there are several code violations that would fit the bill of an unsafe structure, as in piled high storage. There was no means of egress route that we could clearly see. It just seemed like a lot of accumulation of clutter, and not just your typical apartment storage. There was papers, newspapers, books, you name it. Looked like there was garbage and rubbish and just really unorganized, which we felt was extremely unsafe for a couple of reasons. One being that they are a fire hazard to whomever is in the apartment and anybody else who's in the building. It's also an egress hazard, because if there was anybody in the apartment, it would be hard for them to get out, which is what we found in this case, which is what caused this in the first place. Several other things that we noticed, there was a pretty large infestation of insects that will only get worse if unkempt. So there are at least, I want to say 5 or 6 other apartments in that particular part of the building. If the bugs migrated, that's a real issue for a public safety hazard now. So there's a few things going on there that caused this. Part of this, we did an emergency posting of the building because we felt it was unsafe for the tenant to return to his space in the condition that it was. So there's a couple things that we're talking about here. Procedurally, that's already been done. That was just our feeling. We are covered under code to be able to do an immediate emergency posting. We're now here having the public hearing portion now that we've issued an order to professionally clean the place, organize it, whatever needs to be done to bring that apartment back to its code compliant state. I believe everybody received a copy of the order remedy. If not, we can make that available.
Yeah,
Let's
Corey,
see.
if I'll just
Yep.
interrupt you for a second. So the actions that were provided as part of the order to repair or remedy the unsafe structure was obtaining any documentation or permit required by the building department to complete the work, recommending removal of all items from the premises and proper disposal thereof. 3, professional cleaning of the entire premises to be completed by a licensed professional. And 4, a full extermination treatment by a licensed professional, including any repeated follow-up treatments as determined to be needed by said professional and the village building inspector.
Which is appropriate given what we observed. And that's what we're hoping to get the property back to its compliant state. What we feel is necessary.
And you feel like the details that have been shared didn't need to be in executive session to safeguard the person's privacy? We're okay?
The order to repair or remedy would be, it's public record and it has to be shared with the owner pursuant to the code requirements. So that part is,
I just meant here in this meeting right now, like, because there were we didn't get into specifics about the person, but it's kind of obvious from some of the things that were stated.
I would
Given the
just,
sensitivity.
yeah, I would again just note to the board that as long, we're not here to talk about the individual per se. We're here to talk about how to make sure that we get this apartment back into compliance. And in
I just want to safeguard everybody's.
Understood. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to respect them.
Yeah, given the sensitive nature, that's why I've only said what I've said. You have the report, you have the full report that has more information. I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
But it's pretty obvious, the unsafeness that we're talking about. So we have to say a little bit
Right.
what we've observed. Stephanie, you want to speak on next steps?
Sure. So I've spoken to Corey a little bit as to what he's done in terms of due diligence for getting the owner has been served. An owner's agent has been served personally, which is the requirement under the code from the order. I'm not sure if have they appeared are they there right now? Okay. So we can invite the owner's agent. The purpose of the hearing is to have them appear and show any cause as to whether the order or the requirements that I just laid out from the order to remedy should be modified in any way. I think based on my discussions with Corey, there may be some appropriate modifications. So if the board wants to invite the owner's agent to discuss with Corey what involvement from the individual residing there has been and how we can involve him to move forward. Essentially, the modification that I'm looking for is those are the steps that need to be taken, but all of those steps should be taken with involvement from the tenant and or the tenant's appropriate caseworker so that we can use our best efforts to protect any of the tenant's belongings that they so wish to keep, which I understand may have been identified to this point.
So we can come to the table.
Sit here.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. So we, in regard to this situation, yes, yeah. We're finally able to speak with the resident.
Can you just tell us who you are?
I'm Tracy Gaffney. I'm sorry. I work for New Falls Gardens Apartments, site manager in the office.
Thank you.
And Brian is the maintenance manager. So we're finally able to get to speak with him because he wasn't able to speak for a little bit. Yes. Yes. Spoke with a family member, but he does not want any contact with the family member. So now I'm dealing with a friend who is going to try to help, but she's going to go speak with him, let him know like steps we need to do. So we're just trying to, we don't want to remove his belongings. Of course, we can't yet. It's his apartment, but we want to get this all, you know, he's more than welcome to come back. It just has to be a very different situation. So for right now, the friend was going to see him, not today, because she has her grandchildren, has to work. She was going to go see him maybe tomorrow or the next day to try to get a piece of paper signed, notarized at the hospital, saying that she has permission to go there and start trying to clean it out for him.
So you've been in is that appropriate, Stephanie, that we have something? Is that necessary that a friend has to have almost an affidavit to be able to make decisions on his behalf?
So I was, if that's what the landlord and I just, for the record, you're authorized by the owner as an authorized agent to be,
Yes.
okay. So if that's what they feel is necessary, that's fine if we have compliance. As far as the village is concerned, you know, the code requires that the removal work for the conditions begin within 10 days of service of the notice. So we'd want to see compliance with that, and full completion, full satisfaction of the remedies that are noted in the order have to be within 30 days. So as long as that's not going to slow down the process, and I don't see any reason that it wouldn't, you know, it's not necessary, but that's fine.
And how long ago were they served?
The most recent order was served, Wednesday? Which was,
Yeah.
yeah. So I served it on Wednesday, so you're looking end of this week.
Yeah, you got like 5 more days.
And that's to start, not to complete.
Right, but that's the 30.
So,
He did reach out and say, he wanted his books, wanted a wallet, some paperwork out there. So unfortunately.
Yeah. So as long as I have permission from him that this friend can go in there, I mean, I'll be more than happy to let her in to start the process. I just don't know if she knows what she's up against. And then,
And does the person whose apartment it is understand the time frame? You know, with the
Probably
service?
not.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, so his friend he should be notified that this has to start in 5
Yeah.
days.
So I tried reaching out to the social worker again through the hospital, but I haven't gotten a call back. But I've been like talking with the sister, but like I said, they're all in a different state and in their 80s. They're not really gonna be much help.
So to me, it sounds like you have contact through some venue with the tenant, with maybe a list of things that they want
Yeah.
to keep. If that can be put into writing, because what we're really looking at, like, I understand there's a lot of different people in the room, but we're really looking at a very, very
Understood.
public safety hazard.
Yes. No.
So my concern for the whole thing is to make sure that we start the process and stay in compliance with any orders that we've already given. We can modify them to include that you're working with the tenant or the agent of the tenant on these specific items. And that's kind of like an agreement that you're taking care of their, and this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, you're taking care of the items that they want to keep. The rest would be considered what needs to be cleaned in order to bring the building back to a compliant apartment. I mean, we're talking means of egress, fire hazards, all that stuff. I mean, we're not saying that it has to be spotless, but part of that order to remedy would kind of include it being cleaned up very well.
Yeah.
So if you have a friend coming in there to clean things, one, they might not know what they're getting into, but there's a safety issue for them being there.
Oh, I know.
So that's why I issued the order in the first place. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure everybody's on the up as far as communicating and getting the ball rolling, understanding that it's sensitive.
Yeah,
And the order did say professional cleaner. That
I was gonna say, yeah. I'm not sure if,
File, because once it gets in the file, he's going to get his finances. Right now,
Right.
he can't pay for anything,
Right,
including.
So, yeah,
including
like-
even if a professional can clean it, because once he gets that, he might, just take care of himself.
Right.
Pay someone.
Yeah, understand all that. I get all of that,
Right.
but my point is we have a legal order to remedy
Sure.
right.
because of the public safety hazards, however it must be done, that's on the table. So we
yeah,
want-
and sending
we want
another
to be-
member of the public in there is a safety hazard,
Right.
is what he's saying, right?
Which is okay, given the fact that we're trying to comply with the order. That's okay with any order, as long as there's conversation with us about that, that's okay. My concern is what we're trying to get at is there's a time clock.
Right.
We don't want to say 3 months from now we started cleaning it because 2 months from now there could be a fire.
Right.
So we just want to be conscious of that. If we can make these things happen pretty quickly, you can give them the building department phone number. I will speak with the caseworker or the friend or whomever to help you. But we want to be clear, I think that's kind of what the hearing is for, that, what we're looking for
Right.
and make sure you know what's going on. And then that's why we've asked you to bring any information you have. And it sounds like you are in more contact than we are. So the modification to the order to remedy would include your involvement or authorizing your involvement. Again, Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're in contact with the tenant, because there's a difference in legal responsibility. Because they have a lease with you, it's technically private property. He is the controller of the space,
Yeah.
but you are the responsible party as the owner of the building. So we need to find that medium. I think we found it by you having contact with somebody. So the order to remedy is in the name of both the property owner and the tenant. Does it need to be modified,
so
Stephanie?
my advice to the building department and to the village board in issuing the order to remedy was to include the tenant's name, just because we knew to identify them, but that was done as a courtesy. Technically, the order to remedy under this provision of village code is only to the owner and as of village deed records and village tax records. So the ultimate responsible party here is the owner, not the tenant.
But I
So-
like that word. Go
Right,
ahead.
so my understanding and from hearing Corey speak and the village board's questions, we're keeping the requirements of the order to remedy. The modification, so I would have the board vote to reaffirm the requirements in the the requirements in the order in the interest of public safety. And then 2, vote to modify the order to require the owner, to the extent practical, consult with the tenant and or the tenant's caseworker and agents to use the best efforts to return or protect any of the tenant's items or belongings that can be salvaged. How you get to that point, well, that's up to you as the owner's agents and the owner to determine how the best way to get to that. But that is what the villages will be requiring within the timeline stated in the order.
So basically, you're saying by Friday, we need to start removing items.
To stay in compliance with the order to remedy, yes.
Now, is there any way just to get maybe like another week or so onto that, just so we can maybe get some,
We can try to contact him personally.
I might have to go to the hospital and visit them.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a
Yeah.
modification they would
But
have.
isn't that the
before-
key, the operative word that you have to start the process?
Well, it doesn't have to be finished, but I would guess that you guys would be eager to remedy this as quickly as
Well,
possible. We don't want the
absolutely.
infestation to travel like that.
A resident after that.
Does the process technically start because it's already been discussed or does the process start when the person enters the unit to search for the items?
Process, according to code, starts when they were served. with the paperwork. So that's why we're saying the end of this week.
Which
I-
was Wednesday afternoon.
I would just like to verify that it is actually the process starting and not being completed. Because then we can probably do a vote to extend that time if that's the case. But we want to keep up with, and no offense, we keep time clocks because we need. to
We
keep
want,
Right.
account.
we want
Right,
it
and
to,
because, you know, we don't want anything to spreading the word.
yeah,
I'm concerned about the welfare of the other people.
sure, absolutely.
As well as the person.
Yeah.
90-7F, Corey.
Thank you. Work is fast on the
Is this
laptop.
an end unit?
Well,
It's an end building.
yeah,
I only ask because, you know, if it was like in the middle and then you
Oh,
have.
yeah, you got it from each side of it.
Familiar with. it.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Stating that securing the removal of such building shall commence within 10 days of service of the notice and shall be completed within 30 days.
Yep.
So technically, yes, the process should be started within 10 days, but you still stick to 30 days for everything in the order. That's complete cleaning, fumigation.
So by the end of
everything. So
December.
that would give you 30 days would be the end of, just before the end of December. Does that seem appropriate? Would you like, because at least you've satisfied, you know, to get the process started,
yes.
contacting the tenant would be one.
Guess I'll have to take a ride and go talk to him. Yeah, so I mean, we would hope to be able to get it done within that time. We'll do everything in our power to. I just want to speak with him.
Yeah, 'cause like, once we hire someone to come in, they're not gonna come in and start picking and choosing. They come in and clean, they're cleaning everything out, and it's gone after that.
We certainly want to give him a chance.
Yeah. Have his friend get it what he needs, and then the rest we know can go.
Actually, also, we have, all out of the hospital, so, yeah, so you could be back,
Who knows?
Yeah,
I'm a nurse.
yeah.
So if, let's say, we keep it as is, but then if you all run into a roadblock, could they appeal to us for an extension at that point if we move forward today with as is?
We have to conduct another public hearing, Stephanie, to modify the order once again, because that's what we'd be doing.
The code's silent on that issue, so I would say if
Doesn't have to
you as the
be-
building inspector determine that they are remaining in compliance, so whether, you know, it would have to be with the authority of the village board, so it would have to in some capacity be done in a public meeting, but I don't think we need to hold another public hearing as long as the owner remains involved. If the owner were not to remain involved, then we would have to, really the next step would then to start a special proceeding against them. But I don't think we're there yet. So as long as they remain involved, then I think we can move forward that way.
So I think the appropriate, you know, this is how we typically do things with orders like this is you're actively, you know, you're supposed to start within 10 days and you were actively this entire time working, and then you get to a point and you can prove that, you know, you just need more time, something we can make a recommendation to extend at a village board meeting, and we can just extend the order time clock. But I think what's appropriate is, just look it up, the date would be December 23rd, which we would be looking for compliance, or we would want to cause inspection to make sure everything we asked for was being done. I said we keep that, and then it gets close and you're not quite there, quite there. You know, give me a shout, and then I can make a recommendation to the board to extend, but I wouldn't, after listening to Stephanie and just talking this out, I wouldn't recommend changing in that. I would keep it the way it is. That's my recommendation to
The goal is for it to be done by December.
December 23rd is the time clock end date, yes.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to ensure the safety of everybody.
So do we have to motion to approve as Corey and Stephanie's recommendation?
Stephanie, what you described is in this order that's in this agenda, right?
Correct, yes. The
Okay,
four, the
motion
four,
to-
the 4 points that I noted earlier are in the order.
Motion to move the order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does there have to be a second one to modify that?
Yeah, the only modification being that to require the owner to the extent practicable to consult with the tenant and or the tenant's agent or caseworker to use best efforts to return or preserve any items that belong to the tenants that can be salvaged, if the board so finds appropriate. That would be my only recommendation to modify.
I move we make the modification.
When was the order originally written and when did you add that?
So the the order was done last Monday, serve the order as is. That's why we're talking about the 10-day time clock. The public hearing, after having a conversation with some new information, the modification is recommended because of that information that we're putting on record that they're gonna actively be working with the tenants and what they've already told us in that capacity already. So we want to modify the order, which I will reissue and reserve with that information. So you're just voting to modify it to say that. Because as it is right now, you're just reaffirming the fact that I'm saying, no, get it done in 30 days. We want to modify it. That's my recommendation is to modify it based on the new information.
I move we make the modification.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We should have-
Okay. Beautiful. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Good luck with it.
Motion to move the zoning map amendment,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Next item is there's an opportunity to apply to the Restore New York program. Many municipalities can apply.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
So the Restore New York program is one where municipalities can receive assistance from the Empire State Development to renovate properties. So I was thinking that the Oliver House could be a property. A match is required. The municipality does not have to be the provider of the match, but we do have to be the applicant.
Because we still own the property.
Yeah, but
And the
you don't
municipality.
actually even have to own the property.
It's just that it's
either.
within the municipality and the
Yeah.
municipality. has to-
So I contacted S.E. Lewis about this idea. We didn't have a full conversation, but S.E. said that it seemed like a wise thing to consider. So all of this is basically just a letter with an intention to apply that we have to submit by Wednesday. So that's why we added it to this agenda. And then we can work on the application that's due towards the end of January.
I
So
move we send the letter of intent to apply.
I second Donna's motion. All in favor?
Aye.
And I also shared this idea with the school board, some school board members, because I thought maybe that they would want to do something with the whole district office.
Yeah.
But I don't hear back from anyone. But what's interesting is that, and I spoke with folks in the county's economic development office, is that we could submit several letters of intention to apply, but we can only apply for one grant. So it would have to be like another municipality. It could be the town of New Paltz or the town of Gardner. I was thinking it would be interesting because they're also
Within the school
a
district.
big piece of the New Paltz Central School District. But
Mhm.
they would have to apply or submit the LOI. I don't know, always trying to figure out how we could get some of these projects a tailwind with some state resources.
Well, yeah, we should maybe reach out one more time to the school board to try to.
Yeah,
help
I think
see if something can
Autumn
happen.
said that they were going to make an effort to try to connect some of those dots.
Okay, good.
All right, so we just voted to submit the LOI, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that is it, right? That's all we have on this agenda. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Good.
I second Sana's motion to adjourn.